this time, so I have to toast like right in the middle. Hey, everybody, how you doing? Welcome in. Andy with him, Joe Byrne. Joe now broadcasting from his college dorm room, which is nice.
I'm in my mom's house because I have custody of my son through tomorrow. So this is not my own home. This is my room, and my mother very generously has a room for me. Yes, I'm a 54-year-old man who lives with my mother occasionally.
But next year's the year. You're going to break out. This is it. It's coming.
I have 13 months more of custodial time with my kid, and then that is over. It all ends when he graduates high school.
Okay. Then your dorm room goes away.
Yeah. And I don't have to ever see him again. I probably will, but I won't have to. No judge is going to say you got to see your kid. So, Andy, I got to tell you a story. I made a mistake. I made a life mistake.
Ooh.
Okay. So, I really want, in the way that people dream of things that they probably can never have, I really want a Porsche Boxster. I'm not the only person with this dream, right? This is a very common dream for a man of a certain age with a certain amount of gray and a certain level of potbelly. You want a Porsche Boxster.
It's a middle school poster. You got to live your dreams.
Yeah. But I mean, you generally get it when you're 55 and on the verge of retirement, and there's nothing else that gives you much of a thrill anymore because your emotions are dead. You think maybe the convertible sports car will waken them somehow.
Yeah, unless you're incurably white, in which case you get a Corvette.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. There are other options other than the Porsche Boxster, but they call it the retired dentist car, right?
Yeah.
So I really want one. So I know I can't afford a Porsche Boxster. That's fine. So then I'm like, well, I can't buy a Porsche Boxster, but can I lease one? And so I said, you know what? This is the thing, right? It's a Google search. Like, this isn't complicated. I don't have to go to a Porsche dealership and figure this out. I can just Google it, right? So I go online, I check, and I find that the lease payment on a Porsche Boxster is just under what I pay in child support.
18 months left.
And the problem is that this makes me acutely reevaluate all of my life choices leading till now. I told my son that I'm like, without for you, I could have had a Porsche. And he actually felt bad for me. Bless his little heart. Because he kind of respects that, the state. So
I want to ride in a Boxster.
So if you are an adult male who pays child support, I strongly recommend you do not check out the lease payment on your dream car and mentally compare the two. That's my life lesson. You know how Brian Bell does his take home thing? I don't know if you ever seen one of his videos.
One for the road.
This is my one for the road. Much more specific than most of Brian's. Mm-hmm. Much narrower focus, but there you go, guys. My one for the road.
If you had only had sex -3 times, I mean, it'd be a whole different life.
My son's adopted. No sex involved.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Yeah. No. A lot of paperwork. More than a biological child, but no. There was no sex. No, I mean there was sex involved. But I wasn't there. I wasn't. It wasn't my sex. Right? So someone was having. Some couple in Korea, were knocking boots.
Yeah, didn't even get the sex out of it. Really, Joe, you're not gambling the right way. These are the lights.
No. For the record, I do love my kid. I just don't know if I love him as much as I would love a Porsche Boxster. That's right. I'll never know, right? I mean, I can assume. But,
well, no. This is the way it works. You got 18 months left, and then you get the Porsche Boxster, and then you have both.
I strongly suspect that when he's done with high school, I'm going to be spending just as much supporting him in his dysfunctional adult life.
This is what engineering certifications are for.
Yeah. I think my only chance with the Porsche Boxster is for the hybrid Helix to really take off. And yeah.
Well, speaking of, you are on the doorstep of Book 7.
Yeah, Book 7. I don't have a release date, but it's going to be late June. So tentatively June 24th. So my cover artist, Chris McGrath, got back to me. He's got a sketch. He's got the backgrounds done, but he needs photo references for the figure. So he's saying if he gives me a date, he's usually if I say I need one next May, God knows when I get it. But if he says I'll have it to you like May 21st or 23rd, then at that point, he's good to go, usually.
Okay.
So it always has been. So I think I'll have the cover image by then. And I got to get it to the graphic. So end of May 26th. And then I got to get it to my graphic designer, Jay Caleb, who's he's never been slow. I mean, it's just doing the graphic. Like, it's just yeah, which is set, right? He's not coming up with a new typography. He's using the series typography, so it should be pretty quick. It should be like, just a few days, and then which means that I can start promoting it. And if I give myself a month to like pre-orders and push it, then late June gives me enough time. So I'm looking at late June. I want to get out in the first half of the year, which gives me until really the end of June, right? Okay. Which is an artificial deadline.
Artificial deadline. So are you not going to put it up for pre-order?
I probably will, but not until like I have the cover. Like a few weeks before it comes out, I'll probably put it up for pre-order, but not before then. I mean, people go back and forth on whether a pre-order is worth it. I don't know. I don't have that feeling.
My experience was pre-order is worth it if it's not the first in a series. Like if it's a first in a series, you want it to be able to take advantage of the algorithm, so all of the sales take place at the one time, so it kind of shoots you up to the top of your category. That works. And then after that, you're looking at second, third, fourth in a series, and unless you're Cahill, it's like, am I going to really rank in the top 10 for this category with a sequel? Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah. So I'll probably just do it.
I'm convinced that book 7 is the trick that's going to put you over the top, though.
I don't know. I think between that and I feel good because by the end of the year I should have book 8 out and I should have 2 more audiobooks out. And I feel good about that combination because I feel like a lot of people rather listen to the first audiobook and stop because that's selling pretty well. Okay. So I feel like we can get more of those out and start getting on a pattern with those. I think that will help. But I don't really know.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So is the proofread done?
It's back from my first round of edits. So I have to incorporate the fixes for my beta readers, go through all the edits from my editor, and get it back to her, which is not a huge amount of turnaround.
No.
Right.
That's super fast.
Yeah. So a couple weeks I should be able to get that knocked out.
So end of June, provided there are no slips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's always. I mean, some people really get everything done, and they're like, now 2 months from now or 3 months from now, we'll release the book, and that's great. I don't have that kind of patience. I'm always like, oh, I have a cover. I'll release it in 2 weeks from now.
Go.
I don't know. So I'm doing James Doolin, who's No Heart for a Thief. I don't know if you. So we're buddies, and I'm hosting his release party for the 3rd book in that series on June 24th. I looked at my calendar, and that's the day I want to release my book. So now I'm trying to figure out if we should do like a double. I asked him first because he picked the date first. I'm like, okay, if you want June 24th, I'll pick a different date. I'm not going to, rain on your parade. But he seemed to indicate that he thought it'd be cool. So we may just share the date. And if he has any second thoughts, I'll just, a few days later, a few days earlier, one of the two.
Perfect.
I don't want to steal someone else's thunder. But again, he picked June 24th like months ago. It's not like, but no one overpays.
You just have yours on the next day.
Yeah.
And then you promote yours during.
There's this thing where you want to do it on a Tuesday. I feel like Tuesday's the traditional day, but also like I'm indie. What the hell does it matter? It's not meaningful, right? I can do it on a Thursday. Who cares?
Theoretically, Tuesday gives you time to let people know that it's coming. You get past the goofy Monday. You hit on a Tuesday and gives you the entire 5-day period to go through the weekend that theoretically are going to be your big sales right out of the gate.
Yeah. So I don't know. Also, it's not like people have to go to the bookstore to pick it up. They have to wait till the weekend. It's like if you see the tweet or whatever, and you're like, oh, I should get that. You just go to Amazon, you get it. Right? It's not like oh, I have to remember to go to the Barnes and Noble where they're not going to find my book. Right? So.
But they'll find plenty of DVDs that they can buy while they're there.
So I'm excited. Now I just got to figure out the exact plot for book 8. It's always the next.
Always the next thing. So, like, what are we expecting out of 7? What's the fun new wrinkle in Rohan's world?
Birds and the bees in space. Where do baby warships come from? Well, baby or toddler warships. There's a long discussion whether they're considered toddlers because they don't really toddle; they fly. So would we call them toddlers? I don't know. But where do toddler warships come from? That's which has not been explored in the series. They're from elsewhere.
It's reference to. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that.
So the question is answered in full in this book, and of course there's will Rohan solve his big ongoing problems or not? And the answer is obviously not. Well, not all.
Oh, what would be the fun in that?
Yeah. And then why is there a giant turtle on the cover? Those are the big questions. Yeah.
Nice.
Megara, the giant turtle, the kaiju war turtle, Megara, right? Everyone's like, did you know there's a giant war turtle in Japanese movies called Gamera? And I'm like, yes.
I think I may have seen that before. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I would accidentally make that very explicit reference, right? Where do the eggs come from? That is covered in the book as well. We see the factory where the eggs are soldered together.
Do we have giant space turtle sex? Is that part of the show? No. Okay.
I have not had any on-page kaiju sex of any kind in the series so far. It may happen in the future, but no kaiju sex. There's been kaiju punching, and punching back. But this is my 5th kind of kaiju in the series, or something like that. We got the flying lizards, we got the big bugs, we got the
octopus,
we got the giant aurochs. Oh, they're not even kaiju; they're something else.
Okay,
those the giant auroch
moons.
Yeah, maybe it's 4. I forget. We don't know where the kaiju
run out of kaiju.
You never run out of kaiju. Just anything small can become big, right? It's like an infinite supply.
We'll have a kaiju ant. We'll have a kaiju wasp. We'll have a kaiju, whatever you need.
The kaiju bugs are a whole thing. I finally, I have plans for those moving forward. I have plans for a lot of stuff. It's good. So,
well,
yeah.
Let's.
What is your 3rd coming out?
Third's in September.
Okay, I'm reading 2.
Oh, there's one old geek. Oh, Daniel's sad that there's no kaiju sex. He'd been trying to. She's really looking for kaiju sex. There's a market there waiting to happen.
There is. I'm going to have to share it with Chuck Tingle, I think. I think that's going to have to be someone else's. So Trial of Rooker Flynn. I don't know. Okay, so this is. I tweeted this and you retweeted it. So this is funny. I'm reading it.
You're halfway through, right?
I'm almost halfway through. But the craft of the on the sort of it's a very good story, good characters, all that stuff. That's not new. I knew that from. I remember that was true in Blackjack. That was true in the first book. That's not. For some reason, your prose is striking me. It's just really well done. Like I get to scenes, and you put in like 3 details, and I really have a good image of it, right? Like the emotional arcs that people go through, in like short bursts. Are never too long, or they're never too short. They feel really like tight. Everything feels tight in a way that I'm not saying Blackjack wasn't. I just don't remember being struck by it, which could be me, or it could be that you've gotten better. One of the two.
I think part of it is kind of what do you mean by good prose? Is it descriptive so that you can see what the scenario that you're in? Is it just the right amount of flowery? Is it all focusing on character?
Right. But it's efficient. So what I mean specifically is, so in other words, for the amount of description, it's very evocative for the level, right? So if you put in like 3 sentences describing something, I get a lot out of those 3 sentences, which means someone else might have put in 7 sentences and gotten even more, which isn't better or worse inherently, right? But it's hard to imagine doing better with the 3 sentences.
Yeah.
That to me is tight prose.
I think the one thing that I've gotten better at as I keep going is I like frictionless and I like brevity. So if I can figure out a way to get it compact, like, I mean, you were around for this. I did the first draft and I was like, oh, I've got one book and it's 250,000 words long. I'm in trouble. Right. And it's like, okay, we'll break it up into 3 books. Okay. Get them to 85,000 a piece so they're digestible and nobody's exactly stretching themselves and wandering around, which means that you get rid of all of your superfluous stuff.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of that.
Huh?
I'm a big fan of that. Like I like when things are tight and when everything serves multiple purposes.
Yeah,
and that's good writing.
I think I get that out of being a screenwriter first, right? Because I had 120 pages every time. So there's no fat on a screenplay that's allowed. So it was pretty easy to start that way, but there's a lot less wandering going on in Rooker Flynn. It's like, hey, we're trapped in this little environment. Don't get people bored. Because you can get away with a lot when you're doing like a quest story.
Right. New scene. We're in a new place. But no, you're not in a new place every other page here.
We're never in a new place. We're always in the same place.
Same place. So it's very a lot of fun.
Well, and you're past the first third, so they've already moved to location number 2. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I don't remember where I am. I'm far enough in to have a sense of what's going on, so that's good.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it. So let's talk about
Golden Sun.
Well, we're actually going to talk about Morning Star because that's a different book.
Wait, did I read the wrong book?
Joe liked this book so much that he thinks it's Golden Sun.
Wait, did I read the wrong book? What book did I read?
Wait, we read the third one. Yeah. Morning Star.
Is it? Well, that's so weird. I had myself confused.
I think Golden Sun is just a better title. So, you're still stuck on that one.
What happened? Wait, what happened in this book?
We come to the conclusion of the Red Rising saga.
It was Morning Star. Why did I keep telling myself it was Golden Sun? Which one was Golden Sun? Have we not read that yet?
No,
I totally lost.
Red Rising.
Is the worst.
The second one was Golden Sun. That was the one that had the beginning where it was like, who are all these people? What is going on? They're in a space battle. We've got 20 characters going on. And then we had...
Why did I keep telling myself I was reading? Okay, I read the right book. I read Morning Star.
This is a great start because all the conversations we've had up to this point, if they were about different books...
Yeah, right? Who died? Where? I don't remember that part.
Oh, yeah. Why? Yeah. I don't remember Ragnar being that big of a part of Golden Sun.
Ragnar made me so sad.
Okay, well, hang on. Before we get there, let's do a quick build up to getting to Morning Star. So you and I read all 3 of these books together. We started off with Red Rising.
Yes.
And what was your overall reaction to Red Rising?
Can't believe I mean, on a meta level, it was, I can't believe this book is as popular as it is.
Okay.
I thought it was a little more YA than was to my taste.
Okay.
But it wasn't bad.
My feeling coming out of it was I was so enthralled with the end of the first act, wherein, all spoilers alert, folks, where we have our main character die. That was sexy to me. It was just like, okay, let's play.
Yes. Main character dies.
And then he becomes a gold. And then he is recruited into the gold school where they train everybody to be ruthless pricks throughout the entire rest of the series.
And I found that part less interesting. But the world building setup was kind of fun. His transformation was kind of fun. The actual chapters at the school were a little like been there, done that to me.
Right. Okay.
Not bad, not bad, but and I was annoyed. So much of his success felt like it depended on not sort of like objectively him making good or bad decisions, but upon him winning over the loyalty of other people.
Right.
And when those other people are fictional characters, like that doesn't resonate with me because I'm like, well, it worked because the author wrote that it worked. Like, why did Several love him so much? Because Pierce Brown wrote that he did. It wasn't because he necessarily solved the puzzle in a clever way.
Okay.
Several
Did
just
a little bit of out of the box thinking. They had some
there was some
attacks that worked.
Yes, yeah, there was some, but not as much as I would have liked, and there was too much hinging on him winning over people's loyalty just because of.
Okay, so then we move on to Golden Sun.
Yeah.
What was your feeling coming out of Golden Sun?
I think I liked it. I think I liked it more. It felt a little. I mean, I'm sure this was deliberate. I felt a little less YA to me, a little more grown up. They were a little older, literally. Still had the same problem with the loyalty thing, and I was really annoyed. At what's his name?
Severo?
The main character. No. The main character. At Darrow's willingness to risk the rebellion over his own horniness. That bugged me so much to have your wife die in your hands literally and then to go on and have this plan that costs so many lives and so much resources to get this in motion, and then to bet it on, and then to really take the risk. I thought the same thing about him letting what's his name live. I feel like when you are in that position, you don't get to make those decisions anymore.
Okay.
And I mean, I get that he did, and maybe it was a sign of his immaturity and his childishness and his not being perfect. Like, but I felt like those decisions weren't clearly enough presented as mistakes that he would later regret. If he had then said, like 3 chapters later, I really shouldn't have done that. That was a bogus call. Like, maybe it worked out, but I did the wrong thing. If I'd had those moments where I could sort of see that the narrative is telling me he fucked up, I can forgive that, because mistakes are fine. Flawed characters are fine. But I almost feel like Pierce Brown wasn't telling us that. Neither the narrator nor Darrow nor Pierce were saying, oh, this was not the right move. It was an understandable flaw. That's his character flaw, right?
Right.
Does this thing for, what's her name? I'm terrible with names.
Mustang?
A Mustang. He does this thing for Mustang because people do stupid things for love. I'll buy that, right? But it's never really said this was a stupid thing.
Well, Adam's got a comment. I think part of the reason other characters were loyal to Darrow because they didn't just believe in him, they believed in his cause and knew they needed him.
Yeah, in book 3, sure, but not in book 2, right? In book 2, most of them don't know what his cause is, right? They're loyal to him personally. I mean, maybe Severo does. I forget when Severo knew everything.
He reveals to Severo that he's a Red in about halfway
Severo know something before because of his dad? Maybe not.
Ooh, maybe. My recollection was that, in any case, your point being that most of these people didn't really identify with what he was trying to accomplish, because what he was trying to accomplish was secret.
And when they found out, they betrayed him, or at least some of them did. Like, what's his name? The guy we ended up having to kill in book 3, Roke.
Well, good old Roke. We kill a whole bunch of people in Rook 3. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but Roke was the most. But Roke, like, how did he win over Roke's loyalty? Like, he tried to just do it through charisma, I guess, but then Roke wasn't gonna. Roke very much, as far as we can tell, but didn't believe in the cause, right? So,
right, absolutely not.
You don't make a plan where you're trying to win over these people by, like, you've got to pick one, right? You got to find people who you can figure out are in for the cause. Right. And you can't just assume that if they're really not in for the cause, you're going to charisma your way into their loyalty and then count on it. Right. And that's the mistake he made with Roke. And it bugged me because it just seemed dumb.
Yeah. My feeling in book 2 was, number one, I was confused who the hell everybody was at the beginning because I didn't remember most of the characters from book 1. So I felt like I was expected to know who all these people were without them being reintroduced. Number 2, we spent so much time in Gold Society, which is so repugnant in book 2 that I part of me tuned out on the politics part of it. When you've got an emperor up there on the throne making his big speech and this, that, and the other, I just kind of got lost in the politics of it. It picked me back up at the end. But by the time I was there, I was like, I don't really know what people really like about this book. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just I wouldn't put it in my top 10 anytime soon. So what was your emotional situation coming into book 3? Were you looking forward to it? Were you dreading it? Were you somewhere in between?
Somewhere in between. I didn't hate book 2. I didn't hate book 1. I don't know if I would have read book 3 if you hadn't wanted to read it with me.
Okay.
I think
it
would have stayed on my TBR for a long time.
Okay.
All right, like on the Kindle somewhere. Maybe I'll get to it when I feel like it, but
and that's primarily because of your reaction coming out of book 2, or just overall the series had not really done it for you yet?
Both.
Okay.
Right. I'm very specifically annoyed at Darrow for the specific reasons I mentioned, right? The leader of the revolution really risking it over like dumbass reasons. Again, and when the authors got to tell you when it's a flaw. Right. It's like you characters make mistakes. I'm totally fine with that. I actually structure every one of my books. Rohan screws up. And every book has to start with, how does Rohan screw up in this book? And I'll tell you. And then Rohan at some point will go, I screwed up. He'll say it, right? And he won't necessarily beat himself with that over it, but like you're hearing from me, from him, from the narrative perspective that this is a screw up. And I needed that about Darrow, like letting the Jackal live, and about him letting trusting Mustang when he shouldn't have. And I just didn't. I almost felt like I'm also like, because I didn't get that, I don't know what Pierce Brown was trying to say about Darrow.
Okay.
Like that means just Darrow was just doing stuff and he wins, but he made mistakes. He made a bunch of decisions. Were they good decisions? Were they guided by some set of principles that I can understand and appreciate and empathize with? He just did a bunch of stuff. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. The end was fine. Oh, so that frustrated me.
One of the weird things about this is that revenge only gets you so far in terms of a character motivation. I can be behind somebody's revenge in the hope that it's going to blossom into something else. And that's part of what I really appreciated about Morningstar, book number 3. Is because that transformation became complete, and I started seeing all the things that people really like about this series kind of become fruit during the 3rd book. And one of the reasons that I really liked it right off the bat is he's trapped, he's in prison, he's done, right? And other people have to come and get him. And that's all fine and dandy in terms of plot. And okay, we've got to get him out of this bad situation we left him in at the end of book 2. We're moving him on to the new situation for book 3. But it also had the added benefit of introducing one character at a time. Which I really, really appreciated a lot.
It was better.
There was one. And I don't know whether or not this was an effect of the audiobook, or if this would have been true if I would have just been reading it. But there's a character named Holiday that's one of the 2 people that originally break him out. And maybe it was the voice that the narrator used. The narrator was incredibly good, the audiobook narrator. But Holiday's voice was really perfect for what she was, and I kind of I appreciated this new person being introduced, who I accepted as being new, who was there for principle, because it was the right thing to get Darrow out of there, and she kind of stayed with us through the entire book. and she gave me somebody to hook into immediately.
Yeah.
And then little by little, we get introduced. Do you want to talk about your experience with Ragnar? Because you had a reaction.
I mean, first of all, I'm reading it, and I mean, I'm not a big fan of Darrow for the reasons I just said.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Ragnar for almost the same reasons, right? Ragnar he's a great classic revolutionary character, right? The sort of liberated slave, has a real world view change, is totally buys into the process, to the cause. Like, Ragnar's a much better character than Darrow. And I really wish the series had been about Ragnar, but of course they kill Ragnar. The other part about Ragnar dying is I have the E.T. problem with Ragnar dying, right?
Okay, go ahead.
So you know the movie E.T. I assume everyone has seen the movie E.T. You see E.T. when you're a child, and I imagine most of us, you're the age to have seen it as a child, right?
Absolutely. It was like 1982, 83. Perfect.
It's like a wonderful film, right? Like it's just very touching and moving. And I'm sure you have this experience more than me, which is you get to a certain point in your understanding of the craft, and if you watch E.T., you like know exactly what Spielberg is doing to pull your strings at every moment.
Here's how we're manipulating you today.
Yeah, and you see it, like you see the strings, you see the fingers, right? The yanking on them, and it makes it like less effective when it's very transparent, when you know the tricks,
right?
And it can almost be.
And you know where it's going. That also helps.
You know where it's going. You know what the tricks are, and he's very good at the tricks. Maybe you can appreciate that he's very good at pulling the strings, but it loses something when you are familiar with the craft, not just when you're older. Like, it's two different things, right? I think an older person who didn't think about movies very much would still love that film, but if you think about movies enough, you look and you're like, okay, I know why this is happening. Like, this is right. So Ragnar was killed so that you would buy the end. And like, I knew that. So Ragnar died not for the cause. He didn't die for a moral purpose. Ragnar died so Pierce Brown could sell us the ending.
Yes.
It's like
you would have an end.
Martin. It's like when George Martin kills a guy so that you then believe someone else could die. And I'm like, I hate that. I always hate it. I always hate it.
Did you have a good time with Ragnar while he was on page?
I did. I enjoyed him thoroughly. He's a great. I love that kind of character. The slightly simple-minded, very straightforward. I write characters like. I mean, I don't write. I'm not saying I write exactly like Ragnar, but I write characters that are similar to that quite a bit, and I have a lot of fun with them.
Yeah, having a true believer is always a good thing.
A true believer, yes, and a real true believer, but not a simpleton exactly, right? He's got a fairly sophisticated notion of success. He's not out for just revenge either, right? He's got a more sophisticated goal. He's a true believer in the cause, not just kill all the golds he can find, right? He's not an animal, so he's more than what they thought he would be in terms of the golds. Would never expect that of him. Yep. So that makes him good. That makes him a really fun, worthwhile character. And then he dies. And he dies a stupid death. He goes after this woman. What's her name? Aja something.
Aja. So we can set her up for later to be the ultimate badass.
Yeah, and he goes after, says, "I can take her," and no, you can't. I hate that. It's like not necessary. So that bugged me. And it bugged me when I figured out why he died. I'm like, oh, come on, man. So aggravating.
A revenge story within a revenge story. I thought he did a phenomenal job of building that character and honestly letting Darrow draft off of the emotion that he got out of that character as kind of a way to to bring you back emotionally to where you probably ought to be coming into that book. And I feel like Act 1 was a great job of building that up. And so it kind of gives you this nice soft acceleration that gets you through Act 1, reestablishes everything, reestablishes the stakes, lets you know what the troubles are. I didn't have any problem with him dying. I didn't have any problem with the way that he died. I'm okay with all that getting set up because I felt like it was all emotionally effective for me. And then right after that was where I really dug in, which is where you bring Darrow back home. Right. And I loved that because I never liked Darrow more than at the beginning when he was a Helldiver, right? I thought, oh, the initial introduction, I was like, oh, okay, this guy's Billy Badass and he can do anything. I'm a Helldiver. And then they break him. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Okay, great, good. Let's play this game. And so bringing Darrow back to his family at the beginning of Act 2, I thought was the perfect emotional note to hit. And I just loved regrounding him back in that environment as like a starter set for where we're going to go from here.
Well, it does two things, right? You need it's good for Darrow and it's good for his story. You also need it for the story of the revolution.
Yes.
Because it would have been deeply unsatisfying if Darrow and a bunch of Golds whose loyalty he had won in school started a war and changed society.
Right.
What you want the Reds to at least make a hefty contribution to changing society, which is why, like, the key for me, the linchpin of the series is the Reds driving the drills through the
spaceships.
Right? To the spaceship. Yeah. It's like no way to prove that these people don't deserve to be the lower class than to have them use their red skill, not become transformed to golds, but at qua Reds, like in as much as they are Reds, use those skills and abilities effectively to defeat golds on the golden field. Right?
Yeah.
The golden world, which is space on a ship, which is not where the Reds are supposed to be.
Yeah.
But to me, that was unfortunately, that didn't win the day, but it did a great. It was good. I mean, it was good stuff.
That's all right.
That's all right.
I like how that was the linchpin for the book for you.
Yeah.
Because I thought that was a phenomenal moment of doing exactly what you said, of the Reds being Reds is the thing that's going to win them the victory. And seeing them get over on Gold, not just Darrow posing as a Golder with all of Gold's powers. Quite frankly, Darrow not unbecoming a Gold was the best thing that happened in book 3 for me, because it made him relatable for me again.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, I am totally with you on that every step of the way. Coming into Act 2, how that kind of progress moves forward, there was something in there that I really, really liked. And I think it was when they go to maybe Ganymede. They join with the Rim Golds, the other Golds, in kind of ganging up on Gold Fleet from both sides. And Darrow's solution at the end is to bomb their docks and take them, these people who were his allies, off the board for the remainder. There was something about that I thought was really super cool. I don't know whether it was the maturity of recognizing where this is going to go and that you need to deal with it now because you won't have another chance to. But you could have written that out, right? You could have gone like, okay, we're friends now. We united together and and left it alone. But he didn't. And, that's something, stabbing your ally in the back, but not enough to destroy them, just enough to make sure that they're not going to mess with you for another 200 years. I thought that was a cool idea. How did you feel about that?
Yeah. I mean, it would have been very difficult to write the series this way, but I wish Darrow had shown more of that earlier.
Right.
And that's where I'm always going to go back to the, like letting the jackal loose and freeing Mustang and like trusting Mustang when you should, right? Like I'd rather. I mean, you can say me, and if it had been somehow we had seen some sign that like, oh, I did these things, I tried to do these things that were morally correct, and I got burned for it, and that's why the jackal. If you had like a 1-page conversation with someone, Severo, right? I let the jackal live, and I really shouldn't have, and I trusted Mustang, and that was a dumb move, even though it worked out. I'm not doing that anymore. Now I'm going to be the guy. I'm going to be the leader this rebellion needs, and then he proved it in the next chapter by like bombing the docks.
Right.
Oh, so much more satisfying for me.
Okay.
Because that's an arc, right? That's I made mistakes. They cost a lot of. There's a lot of suffering as a result of those mistakes. I'm not making those mistakes again. I'm going to be that utilitarian leader that we need to win the day. That's an arc. But if that's what we were meant to take, if that was going on in Darrow's head, I didn't see it. Maybe I missed it. Maybe I skimmed. I don't know. But I don't think that was clear.
I'm trying to think of a moment, and I'm not coming up with one. There may be one in there, but if neither one of us can get to it, it makes it a pretty inaccessible moment. So, I get what you're. Okay, so other side of the same coin, kind of, is. Then you and I had a little bit of this conversation on the Discord. Was the maturity in this book to me seemed to come out of trusting and relying upon these other people to do what they're good at and what you've trusted them to do, as opposed to trying to take everything on your own shoulders, which I also loved. I mean, I loved the idea of
allies, not throwing trust in, because what he used to do was toss trust around like it was candy.
Yeah.
Trust the Jackal. I'll trust Mustang, right? Even though they don't seem to warrant it. Right. But here he's trusting the people who are standing on his side. And that's different. That's different. I'll buy that. That was good stuff. No, I agree with you. That was good stuff. Very shonen anime.
Yeah. Well, and the ability to delegate is a sign of maturity.
Delegate, the ability to, he's with Severo on the mission, and he says, "No, you know what? I'm taking over. Sorry, not sorry." That was hard, but a good move. Nothing's really more important than the overall mission. And if we fail here, and then he finds a clever way to save them all. Let's all jump into space, and good stuff. That's good stuff. That's good character, stuff, and him being that guy. And clearly, the final plan was his plan. It was someone's plan, right? Like the thing that wins the day.
Well, let's hold off before we get there, because I want to talk about that a little bit. Anyway, in terms of maturity, I thought it was really cool to watch that happen for him. And little by little over the course of the book, I find myself more and more and more and more and more on Darrow's side. And the third thing that it plays into it is one of the things that you referenced earlier, was it's not just golds deciding to go against golds. It's reds and obsidians and blues. It's bringing everybody who is not gold together into a purpose. And that was something that was missing out of the first two books. And that kind of, whether you want to call it that level of maturity or that level of leadership or that level of writing, whatever it is, I thought really, really worked, because now you're not just rooting for reds to free Mars. You're rooting for humanity as a whole to free themselves from the didactic clutches of the gold. And bringing everybody together to do that, I thought was a really maybe the only way to go that really would have worked. But he went there and he did it well.
Yeah, even a pink saved all their lives at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. It's good stuff.
Even when you can get a pink going in the thing. So anything else about Act 2 jump out to you?
There was some clever stuff. The rest, him saving them from that, when he took over for Severo, was clever. He did something else clever, and I forgot what it was. And then, I think that's the gist of it.
Got it. So let's talk about Rogue. Do you have any feelings about how that went, especially comparing Rogue to Cassius, right? Because Cassius is their prisoner throughout, and he's kind of under the gun, and Darrow has mercy on him. Whereas Rogue remains sided with the Golds to the point where it's almost poetic at the end.
Yeah, Roke is the other Ragnar.
Right. He's the other true believer.
The other true believer, and that's a perfectly fine character, right? Like that happens.
Yep.
Right? Like I think Roke wouldn't have wanted to betray. I think he felt personal loyalty to Darrow, but he was like, too bad. This matters. This is really important, and I like you, dude, but I'm going to have to kill you now, right?
Yeah.
Like that was Roke.
Yeah.
Roke was a better leader, better and more consistent person than Darrow.
Oh yeah.
Didn't pay off for him in the end, right? But I mean, I like, in a way, I like Roke as a character because of that. Probably more than I like. I mean, he wasn't on Page as much, but I like that kind of character. I like those characters more than I like the Darrows of the world who have to. I guess Darrow got there in the end, but it wasn't really clear that he knew he was getting there in the end.
Right.
So it didn't work as well for me. But Roke knew who he was. Roke stayed who he was, and he died the only way he could have died. Right? It would have been sad if he like choked on a peach pit. Like off the page. Like guess what? Roke slipped in the tub and cracked his head open, and
we don't know what happened to him.
We do know he really did slip.
We do know.
Nope. Yeah. Now we have a straight shot at the core. Or I don't know.
But I thought the idea of having a character who was so firmly on Gold's side and believed that utterly to the point where even at the point of death, he's not going to back down. He's not going to capitulate. He is going to be that guy until you put a gun to his head and blow his brains out. And that I really liked that a lot in terms of there's a sadness that got generated out of that. Like I said, it was almost poetic in the way that happened. And it's that recognizing the fact that someone that you love is never going to see things the way that you see them.
Yeah. There's this, I'm going to get very slightly political, but sort of in a neutral way. So there's this thing that happens where people on the political left in the US right now are often sharing videos or stories about people who voted for Trump but are personally hurt by some Trump policies, like tariffs or whatever, and their business goes under and they're upset. So they make statements that they're upset, and people will rebel, like, "Oh, look, you got what you asked for." That may be, or I'm not commenting like that's a good or a bad thing, like, but that's a thing that's happening. Yeah. And then one guy who lost his job because of Doge, he's like a lawyer working for the government or something, and he says, "I would still vote for Trump again today." Right? Someone shared that story and said, "What an idiot! Like, he lost his job because of Trump." And I'm like, actually, I have more respect for that guy.
Because this is the person who's voting.
He is a true believer. He is saying, whether I agree with him or not, which is not the point, he believes in what Trump is doing. He endorses it. And even though it's bad for him personally, he's still on board. Right. And he's not saying, "Oh, I wish I could take my vote back because it cost me my job." He's saying, "Wish I still had my job, but I vote for the guy again tomorrow." And I'm like, again, whether I agree or not, it's not the point. I'm not saying anyone listening should agree with one side. That's not the point I'm trying to make. But I respect that more.
Yeah.
Than someone who said, "Man, if I could do it again, I'd vote for Kamala because then I would still have a job." And it's like, what kind of do you believe what you're doing or not? Like, do you really make every vote based on what you think is going to give you the most personal benefit in the next, like, come on, that's not morality. That's opportunism, right? But that's this guy has a belief, and he's I don't know the guy, right? Like, this is all like a couple tweets. That's all I know about this.
No, it's a good comparison.
Yeah. So Roke is that guy, right?
Yeah.
And Cassius, the thing about Cassius's turn is Cassius is not a true believer. He was sort of doing what he felt. He was sort of angry and about personal affronts, like, my brother was killed, so I hate you. Yeah. And then I thought that, but these guys also killed a bunch of other people I care about, so I hate them even more. And so, like, Cassius's turn was fine, but if Roke had turned, it would have been wrong.
I am absolutely with you there, and I think it's a brave choice to have Roke die the way that he did. I liked that fixed point in the universe as being something that was unshakable, despite the fact that it was wrong. Really enjoyed that a lot. So let's talk about Cassius.
Yeah.
Why don't you just go on Cassius? Because I have a lot of feelings.
I mean, okay. I think it would be interesting to, as a mental exercise, to imagine if the book had been written. So turning Cassius, planning the final thing had been on page. And you would have completely lost the shock value of, oh my God, like, because here's the thing, right? Everything is setting that up, right? Darrow has this history of extending mercy where it's obvious he shouldn't. It's burned him in the past with the Jackal. It should have burned him in maybe other places. I can't remember all the examples. And doing it again feels like another Darrow. It's annoying. It's so annoying. You're like, oh, Darrow, you're being a schmuck again, right? But like,
time. I gotta say, if we're talking about the moment where Darrow chooses not to kill Cassius, that to me was my favorite moment in the book.
Oh, that was good. It's when he put Cassius on the shuttle.
Okay, that's fine.
So you're reading it, and you know choosing not to kill Cassius is fine because Cassius is no danger. And he chooses to put Cassius on the shuttle and send him home, and you're like, dude, just don't. Like, it just, and then you think he kills Severo, and you think that everything is lost, and it's like, and it feels like I bought it because Ragnar had died, so we have this history of beloved characters being killed. Clearly, Pierce Brown's willing to go there. Yeah. Darrow has a history of making mistakes just like this, and he gave us no indication that he had learned from his mistakes. Right. Which is why maybe that's why we never had that scene where he says, "Oh, I spared the Jackal and I shouldn't have, and we've all paid for it, and now I'm not going to be that guy anymore. I'm not doing that again."
It would have blown your ending.
Would have blown my ending, but to me, that's a sign that the ending's on shaky ground. Okay. But the ending was better for it, but it made the rest of the series worse.
Okay, understood. So your feeling, okay, so when Darrow refused to kill Cassius,
that was fun.
That was a good moment for you.
That was a good moment for me, and it was a repeat of the "I'll take the suffering onto myself."
I'll take the suffering onto myself, which was the most resonant thing.
One of the best moves he made is that the end of book one?
Yeah, book one.
Well, book one. That was a solid Darrow moment. Solid, like, leader doing some. I like the doing something clever. It's not really clever, but doing something sort of unexpected you didn't just win a fist fight by being better at fist fighting than the other fist fighter, right?
Yeah,
is doing something interesting to win.
He won the argument by taking the suffering onto himself.
And that's something interesting. That's not what everyone does in every action movie, right? It's not like we've seen that 1,000 times before. We really haven't, right? That was good stuff. For him to do it a second time was good stuff.
Okay, so that gets Cassius, because to me, that was what I had been hoping, because it could have been taken as a setup for this whole coming battle between the two of them to finally duke it out over Darrow killing his brother and having some kind of, I'm better than you moment. And the fact that he
already did that with Severo.
Yeah, exactly.
Do it again.
And to me, that gave the opportunity for a redemption arc, which is my favorite thing. So the fact that they used Cassius as the lever to do that, Cassius is one of the few characters that I had a huge buildup in emotionally for what was going on with this guy, from becoming, Darrow's good best friend who trusts him throughout, and then he discovers that Darrow killed his brother and he can't forgive him for it, and then they're in opposition the entire second book, and then Darrow has the upper hand and ought to kill him and doesn't. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. So that when Cassius reaches in to Severo's holster and pulls out his gun and blows him away. I'm like, you mother, oh no, it's no one more case of not being able to trust the guy. And then from that point on, to me, it was just off to the races. I just had, because everything seemed so bleak. Everything was destroyed. There was no chance of win. There was no chance of victory. Everything was destroyed. And yet they pull another version of the hiding in the horse stunt, which to me, it was like, hey, we're going to pull the wool over those guys' eyes. And it was Mustang that came up with the plan.
I forgot.
They mentioned it earlier because Mustang says her plan and then they all start laughing, but he doesn't tell you what the plan is. And then everything goes wrong and you're like, oh, never mind. Whatever this plan was supposed to be is dead.
Right.
And I loved that moment. The question for you is, did you love the moment at the reveal where Darrow goes over and injects the adrenaline into Severo's chest and off we go?
I mean, you feel good.
You feel good.
Right? Like it's a feel good moment because you're like, oh, thank God. Like all the stuff that I thought was so annoying. But it's almost it's ET problem again.
It's the ET problem.
Right? You get you know all this, why wasn't that plan and turning Cassius, why wasn't that on the page? Why did it have to be in retrospect? Why are we first person in this guy's head and yet we are also not clued in to the actual state of what's going on? It felt cheap. It's like an effective but cheap trick.
Oh, okay. So which is it more, effective or cheap?
Probably more effective than cheap, but it's both. Like I wouldn't say it's a bad ending. That if it was where the series ended, I would be perfectly content, and I would say this is a perfectly fine trilogy of books.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, this is where the series ends.
I have zero interest in like the 10 years later, which is apparently what the next book is.
No, not interested.
I don't know. I just couldn't care less.
Right.
But it was a satisfying ending, right? Like the bad people got like. What do you want to see in an ending? You want to see justice. You want to see some clever moves. We saw some clever moves. You want to see the downtrodden rise up using their native abilities, which we saw. And I think it would have been. I mean, look, you can't make everything work that way, right? Ideally, some helldiver in a drill would have like come through the dome and like killed the Empress or whatever her name is, right? That would have been slightly more perfect to me.
Right.
But like, there's only so far you can twist everything to make everything line up. Like the fact that they wouldn't have been in the position to be there if not for the Helldivers was good enough. It's good enough.
Well, and the fact that the story is not what I want it to be doesn't ever stop it from being a good story.
Right. No. It was a good end.
Part of our problem as authors is we're already always taking what we're experiencing and then going, well, I would have, and yet you forget that you've got this entire foundation that has been built for you to, take those backflips off of the shoulders of giants. Yeah. For me, it was I felt like I wanted a redemption arc with Cassius. I got it. However, I bought into Severo's death as being a necessary part of getting where we were going. And when that death got taken away, I felt slightly less emotionally invested in what had happened. The thing that saved, because Severo dying, that moment for me was a big deal. That was an emotional punch in the face. And I'm missing teeth. And it had a huge emotional impact that I'm still feeling like 3 chapters later. So when he came back, oh, he's not dead. I felt less happy that he wasn't dead, but more that I had been robbed of this moment that was really effective. However, the idea that they used it as a trick that harkens back to the old Severo tricks of hiding in the corpses of the dead horses and all that kind of stuff. which I don't even know that he mentioned, but it was such an obvious glaring parallel to exactly how Severo works all the time, that it was clever enough that what I loved was the fact that he took away my emotional damage that I enjoyed and replaced it with something that was clever enough to fill the same void and give me a nice turn on that. And I thought that was not just clever, but good writing to bring that around at the end. And having that emotional satisfaction of having the 4 people that I actually care about in this series coming together to win at the end, without losing any of them. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This knocks it out of the park for me.
Yeah, well, if only Ragnar had shown up.
Only
Ragnar. That was my clone. Who knew?
Don't worry, I'm back now.
That was Bagnar, not me. Or is it Rangar, right? Ragnar backwards, Rangar.
Yeah, we just
Rangar died. Yeah, you just can't tell us apart because we're all like.
It's sad that he's gone, but don't worry, I'm still here.
I like him anyway. He's the one who finished all the booze. You didn't know that.
So overall, as a series, as a 3-book structure, I get that you are kind of sitting there. Oh, sequels are worth it to read. Lightbringer, but otherwise you're not missing much. And it's the kind of comments like that from Zinn that makes me not be interested. And, at some point it's a money grab, and that's okay. Right. But was this ever meant to be more than 3 books?
This would be a 17-book series.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just keep going as long as we're still making money on the thing.
Yeah.
Do we have a story to tell? It doesn't matter.
Just Darrow versus the kaiju on Mars, or on Pluto, not Mars. Mars is taken. Venus, the kaiju on Venus.
The kaiju on Venus. We got to have that. So, where does this series come down for you? Is this, I'm really glad I read it. I get where people are coming from when they say how much they like it. I don't get it at all. Where are you on this scale?
So there's 2 ways of looking at it, right? There's the in terms of the world of just me, right? What did it do for me is one thing, but then there's the maybe unfortunate, but very real fact that we're part of a community of like booktubers and other writers and people who have discussions and are often talking about things like Red Rising.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I'm glad I finally. It's like having read Lord of the Rings. I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings fan. But I think if you want to be an educated reader, you've got to read Lord of the Rings. You got to read A Few Wheel of Time. You got to read, if you want to watch BookTube and be on these discussions and be on the panels, and otherwise you're not going to know what people are talking about. So in the sense of the community and the ecosphere, the bookosphere, whatever it is,
I like
the bookosphere. I'm glad I finally knocked this out, so I can have an intelligent opinion about everyone's saying, because when people now say to me that Red Rising is like their favorite series, I'm like, okay, I understand something about who you are as a person, or as a reader, not as a person. I know something about them as a reader that I can encapsulate and understand. So that's useful to me.
No, actually, I want to finish with you before we move to other people. So, but for you, take the community out, right? What did this series do for you?
Oh, very little. This would have had to be an early space opera exposure for me to love it. I would have had to read this when I was 17 or just newish to space opera.
Right.
Even at 30, right? If I hadn't, I read a lot of space opera when I was young. Yeah. If I hadn't, and I came to this at 30 and I hadn't really read a lot of space opera, maybe I dug into Wheel of Time and that's it. And I read this, I might have absolutely freaking loved it. I'm just not that guy. Right, I read it at the wrong time, so I feel like a lot of what it does is it does some things that are interesting and good, but the stuff that I think blows people's minds are just some of the visuals and like the red rain and like the giant guys in huge armor and the weird weapons, the sling blade, and those visuals are like impactful, but like not if you've read a fuck ton of like Jim Starlin and Michael Moorcock and all this. Watch Star Wars when you were 6 in the like I'm not the right age for it to have that kind of impact on me, because all
Right.
that stuff feels kind of hackneyed to me because I've seen it before. Doesn't
Right.
mean it wasn't well done, but it wasn't like things really fire your imagination when you see them, for the first time. And I think a lot of the people I feel who love Red Rising, it is some of their earlier space opera.
Okay. So then
Right,
the augment. Oh, for me, so what I liked about it was that it was like Hunger Games, a classic punching up tale. And I usually like those because I that class disparity thing I think is very resonant. I identify with that. I feel like it's a very easy thing to put yourself here and you've got somebody over the top of you. I think that's an easy emotion for me to tap into and enjoy a lot. Um, I really liked Red Rising because it was mostly that. I thought the school part went on a little too long and there was a little bit too much into it. Could that have been shorter? Okay, but it's a lot of sci-fi fantasy. A lot of those books could be shorter, but no real complaints about the first book. The second book is all the things that I don't like about SFF, which is way too much politics, way too much complicated stuff and characters I have to remember. And I lose the emotion because I'm too busy thinking about, who is this and what are they and what's their emotion because I'm there for the emotional ride, right? That's the whole reason I'm there. And then 3, I really, 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 really understood what people like about it because of 3. Because I thought 3 was the emotional gratification of everything that had come before it. And the way that it was done was clever. There were some stakes. That whole act 1 in book 3 really got me back in emotionally, right where I ought to be in order to enjoy the story. And then the rest of the story was really cool. The Helldiver stuff, the dock bombings, the way that they attacked the fleet. Tons of cool stuff. It's like, okay, we can't win from outside. We're going to win from inside. Okay, cool. Let's go. And, yes, of course they're going to do that because it gives you the opportunity for your guys to be the ones who do the action to make it work, as opposed to making this entire fleet battle be the thing that works. No, you got your band of 8 guys that are going in on the secret mission and to destroy the Death Star. Okay, cool. That's what you want out of the characters, and that's what you want emotionally, is for your guys to be the ones that do it. And then you got a nice little twist at the end where the heroes pull off something clever, and I liked it a lot. What's interesting to me is, one, the number of people that say Hail Reaper when you talk about that book, because to me, Darrow is 51% of the book, and the rest of it is the other characters and the situations and what's going on. Kind of like you, I feel like Darrow's interesting, but he's not really the whole book for me. And then there's something about Severo that really, really resonates with everybody. And I think it's just that cocksure, devil may care, fuck it, let's go attitude that is really, really appealing. And I got there in book 3. I started to see Severo as that guy who I wanted on my team and I wanted to be with, as opposed to just a crude asshole who wouldn't know civility if it hit him in the face. And the fact that I was able to get into Severo, I think Mustang is a painting on a wall. Here's the girl, and there's just not that much there. But beyond that, Cassius having an opportunity to do a redemption arc, I thought also was incredibly satisfying. So, started off really well. Second book was a big dip, and then the third book was a big jump up. So I get what people liked about it, and I had a good time at it. Is it the best trilogy I've read in the last 5 years. No, but I really enjoyed the time that I got to spend there, but I have no interest in continuing.
Severo's the runt who's
Yeah.
scrappy enough to make up to be successful despite being the runt. So he's the underdog of the gold.
Yeah.
A. B. He's loyal like a dog. Severo is exactly, people love Severo for the same reason they love dogs.
Yeah.
In every the pet, right? You love those characters. You love them because we all want a Severo in our lives, right?
Right.
We love the underdog and we love the person who's completely loyal to us, like to the extreme.
He's the underdog. He's got both those two things going for him. Okay.
Yeah, he's a dog in two ways. So I think that's a big reason why Severo's a fun character. Yeah.
And I didn't really tap into Severo before this. Right. The third book is really where
I like the little guy who, because Severo seems to win through cleverness and being willing to do things other people don't do. That's his modus operandi. That's the kind of character I always like, right?
Yeah.
Like being bigger and stronger than everyone else is not particularly interesting. I mean, it's okay, but
I can punch harder than you.
Yeah.
We just watched Mission Impossible last night.
Oh yeah,
Mission Impossible 2, and John Woo, God bless him. But you've got two guys at the end who drive two motorcycles into each other, tackle each other in midair, spin around, and then have a 20-minute long fist fight. And Gloria's watching it, and she's like, "My penis is bigger. No, my penis is bigger." And that's really the whole end of the movie.
Yeah, really long fights are hard to pull off because very rare. You should only have one act turn in a fight. And when you have more, see, if the character's losing and they figure something out, they change strategy, and then they're winning again, and then they win, you're good. But some directors see that, and they're like, oh, going that V shape is fun. Let's do like 3 more of them.
Yeah.
But if you go down, up, and back down, it's not a turn anymore. Now you're just oscillating, and that's not fun. It's not fun to watch, and it's very hard to pull off. They're like,
John friggin' Woo, and doves are flying out through the screen, and sand is flying.
Yeah. Bruce Lee did these well because Bruce Lee's fight scenes were nice. They were short. There might be a turn or two, like some new strategy was used, and so things would shift. Some momentum shifts, but it wasn't crazy. He was quite amazing. But it's funny. I was in the supermarket, and there's a magazine with Bruce Lee's picture on it, like they're selling some martial arts magazine, and I'm like, the guy's been dead for more than 50 years, and you're still using his face to sell magazines.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we should be using Jet Li.
I just remember in the 80s, they were still using like Bruce Lee and Arnold Schwarzenegger to sell martial arts magazines and bodybuilding magazines. And in the 80s, everyone was like, come on, guys. Like, they've been dead for a while, or not. Well, Arnold's not dead, but they not in the sport for 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, let's move on. And now it's like 40 years later, we're still doing it. Like, no one in 85 realized. Anyway, not the point. So do you feel like this is like worthwhile read, or like one of your top trilogies of your adult life, or just fine, or where are you placing this in the Witham Hole?
Well, let's see. What I heard you say was Witham Hole, and we are not placing anything in the Witham Hole.
Hall.
Hall.
The Witham Hall. A Hall of Witham.
I'll give you the best example that I can, which is Hunger Games, right?
What?
Hunger Games. Hunger Games, that first book was exceptional, in part because we're using children to kill each other. And I hadn't seen that before other than Lord of the Flies. And this was, arranged. And I thought it was really compelling. I thought it was well written. We had a great character death that really kind of solidified everything into the third act. And we have kind of an overcoming arc that works. And then Hunger Games fell to pieces over the next 2 books, right? The second book is mediocre, repeat at best. hey, back in the same situation with more interesting games. And then the third act is just an analysis of depression. And it's just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be tapping into here. So, as much as I like Hunger Games, I think that Red Rising is a better trilogy. I think he stuck the dismount. I think the third book is the best of the bunch. I thought the ending of the third book was exactly what the audience wanted without giving it to them exactly the way that they thought they were going to get it. But he still hit all those emotional beats at the end. So, in terms of YA-ish trilogies, and I still have to classify the whole thing as YA because that whole punching up thing is part of being, a teenager and having a man's body and being powerless, right?
Yeah.
You think that you can do all these things and you can't, but fighting your way up to that is a necessary part. So I really like that. Yeah, Zen is saying 3 is better than 2 is better than 1. So, but my definitions of YA are always off. So, got to make a fight mean something. Physical manifestation of a conflict of clashing ideals. The fight should reflect that, and absolutely it should. And to Joe's point, it's just like once you turn 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times, it's just you're just doing tennis.
Yeah.
But as much coming out of book 2, I would not have said that I would have thought that this was a really good trilogy. This is at least a 7, if not an 8, on the overall scale, and that's a pretty damn good number for something that's that long and takes up that much time and goes off course as much as it does for me. So I feel like he did what he set out to do, and he did it in a compelling way. And in all honesty, having that many compelling characters, you've got 4 to start with. And then you've got your Ragnars, and then you've got your Emperors, and then you've got your Ajas, and then you've got your, so there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in there that's not just the main characters.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a depth and a breadth to it that was pretty damn good. Am I going to run out and recommend it to everybody I know? No. But I feel like of a lot of the SSF stuff I've read, it's pretty high up there. Best example, Obi-Wan versus Anakin. The only parts of that fight that mattered was the beginning and the end. The middle was fluff. It didn't need to be that long. Yes, but we have to fill 30 minutes.
Yep.
We've got a lot of money we've invested in lava, and we need to show a lot of lava.
Show a lot of lava. Yeah.
All right. Well, that'll probably take us to the end. I appreciate you reading with me. I am looking forward to reading another book. Whatever you want to read together, I will read it with you. Because I had a lot. It's more fun for me reading these things with you, because we don't necessarily have to read at the same speed, but we both give each other about 3 weeks to a month to get through it, which is about the right amount of time. And I get so much more out of the JCM Burn recommendations than I get just reading it myself, because your insight helps me view the book through a different lens, which is nice.
Vice versa, absolutely. Yeah, I like it because both you give me insights that I wouldn't have had on my own, and also being forced to talk about the book makes me analyze it at a different level than if I just consume it. You know, so it's like this double whammy. I think about it more, and then I get your thoughts combined. And
I'm glad we got to get to this before it had been a month since we had read it. Some of these details start to go away.
I finished like a week ago, or something, and then I had to read Dungeon Crawler Carl in the middle, which was a ton of fun.
So where are you in DCC?
I finished book 2.
Got it. Holler at me when you get done with 5, and I'll read 6 with you. If you get that far.
So you've read the first 5, I assume that's what you mean?
Yeah, I got to a point where Well, it was like I was saying beforehand, a lot of stress going on in my life. And I feel like part of the reason that DCC is so popular is that it does, John, here's the thing, John, Dungeon Crawler Carl should not work. It's too weird. It's too goofy. It's got too many weird jokes built into it that it should be something that's popular. And it is. And there are a couple of different reasons that it's popular. One is the audiobook. If you listen to audiobooks, please do DCC on audiobook. But the other is that there's something about it that works because it gets past just being funny and just being punching goblins and blowing them up, and does a little bit of social commentary, which really helps a lot. Sorry, go ahead. You say, Joe.
I think you're wrong. I think it does a lot of social commentary.
Yeah.
And it's a lot deeper than it needs to be. And I got about 2/3 of the way into each book 1 and book 2. And I was like, this is fun. And then around the 2/3 to 4/5 mark, there's the scenes where, not to spoil it for non-readers, but where they're on the news programs.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this is working on a much higher level than I realized.
Yeah.
Right? So all the gamer stuff that doesn't work for me as much because I'm not really a gamer, where I feel like if I were a gamer, I would appreciate the loot box jokes more. Like, I get it on some level, but I don't love that stuff. But I think if I were really into gaming, I'd like it more. But I don't need that, right? All of a sudden, you're like, there's way more going on here. Even if you're not loving the gaming references, it's not real world injection.
Yeah.
No. It's fantastical world injection.
Yeah. It's
a reflection on like Earth politics. That's not it.
Almost, it's not satire. I don't know what to call it. But yeah, they're not injecting real world stuff. He's injecting real world ideas.
But Carl's running around in his boxers and he's, blowing things up, but he's
got a talking cat.
He is not a dumb or emotionally unintelligent guy.
Yeah.
He is a very, very aware and interesting character. And to me that the crux of it was like those scenes and then Carl's mantra. Right? Yeah. You won't break me.
I will break
Carl's victory. Here's the beauty of it. It's the victory conditions. Carl has realized he's probably going to die, but they're not going to make him an asshole.
Yep.
And that's how he's going to win.
They're not going to turn
whether he wins the game or not. He's not going to be he's not going to be a worse person than he wants to be. He's not going to compromise himself.
Yeah.
And that is a beautiful and not typical storyline. It's like, I don't think he expects to survive. I mean, I think we expect him to. I expect him to survive. I expect him to.
Sure, you got to have more books.
Yeah. I expect him to win the game, right? But like that to me, that is what I write, right? I love that. I love the because Rohan. I mean, my character is always like. He always has the option of just punching everything until it goes away.
Yeah.
The whole thing is, I'm not going to be the guy who just solves all his problems by casual murder anymore.
Yeah.
Anymore. I'm done being that guy. But you always know what's on the table, right? But he's not doing it anymore because he's just decided I'm not going to be that guy anymore. And Carl's not exactly that. He's not like, he doesn't have a history of mass murder, but he's just sort of saying, I'm gonna be true to my values. The game can kill me, but and I love that.
I am who I am, and I believe what I believe.
That is not a simplistic character.
No,
right? That is not. That is a much more, and with all the jokes and all the game mechanics, you feel like he could have put a much simpler character in there, and it would have been still very fun, right?
It would have been fine.
Funny. A lot of funny stuff, a lot of humor, a lot of good action. Would have been fine, but he didn't. He made Carl a mensch.
And a lot of clever problem solving.
Yeah.
The other things that I like about it is the ultimate punching up book, right? There's no way you're going to win. You are utterly at the whim of other people. You are nothing but a slave throughout. So working your way out of that, you've always got something to fight against. And hey, we got 15 levels of it. So And
but it's not Earth politics, John.
no,
It's destroyed in the first like 3 pages.
yeah,
But that's not a spoiler.
we don't
Like,
need Earth anymore, but it does have a societal thing. One of the things that I love best out of that is first book, Glurp Glurp, where he's got the guy with all the teenage boys, right? And the teenage boys are just gonna be into whatever he's into because they are following the leader. And just as a social commentary on take your pick, whether that's social media, or video games, or celebrity status, or whatever that is, that's a real thing. And it kind of shows the lengths to which that can become abhorrent and then drops it. And we move on to the next thing. Right?
right. He doesn't beat any of these themes to death.
No.
He's a really good writer. I'm glad I read his book. I met him. Like I said hello. I said, I know who you are, and I shook his hand, and that was it. We didn't really have a conversation because he's surrounded by people at cons, you know,
constantly.
He's a big name. He's not.
And speaking of which, you can meet up with both Joe and I at Worldcon in Seattle this year.
Proud to have been chosen by our future AI overlords for a panel.
Come out, Peters. We know you're going to get a plane ticket just to see us.
They're actually saying now that the AIs, that ChatGPT did not choose the panelists. They were just used at a later stage of the vetting process to make sure there was no reason to reject some people.
That's right. We're just doing extra research with the AI. Well, you got to use it for something, right?
I don't know. I have no idea why I got panels and people like Andrea Stewart did not. I find that mind-blowing, but whatever.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining in. We appreciate you. And Joe, I appreciate you as always. We'll see you on the flippity flop. Good night. Ciao, bella. Adieu, adieu.